What's up, everybody? This week, Greg and I talk about 3 classic fighting games: Tekken 2, Street Fighter 2, and Killer Instinct. That and a whole lot more is to come, because maybe Ken's theme is infinitely better than Guile's, and you cannot change my mind. Welcome to the show. You know, video games and music do go hand in hand, and I'm going to ask you this question, dude. Is it true that Ken's theme is better than Guile's theme?
You know, I don't know. That's one of those matter of preferences, I think. I think they're all epic in their own way, really.
Street Fighter.
They put a lot of effort into all of it, the art and the music, everything. So,
and I think Street Fighter is the king. Hi, everybody. What's everybody doing this fine week? I'm John by Gregg, and we are here. We're going to be talking about some classic fighting games from the 90s that were released on several different consoles. But before we get started, I just want to tell you, thank you very much for your support in the last couple of weeks. And, you know, we are back. We are doing fantastic. And if you want to support us, go ahead, check out Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. That's where you'll find us. Look at Because Maybe Network. That's where we are right now. Check out YouTube, bit.ly/bmnetwork-YouTube. And, of course, if this is not where you usually get your podcasts, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, and tune in. So, as you saw last week, we're going to go ahead and jump in as quickly as we can. So, Greg, man, awesome to have you back. It's been great. It's been too long since we last recorded together, because you know. Yeah,
you know, I was actually listening to the pod today while I was working, and it got to the Groundhog Day one, and I just thought about how much fun we had doing that one, and just what a great film that was, and just all the little snips of stuff that I'd researched and just completely forgotten about. Yeah, it was cool. So I was definitely looking forward to doing it again.
And how Phil Collins is still in Groundhog Day.
Right. He could feel it coming in the air.
There you go.
In Punxsutawney.
Punxsutawney. I want to go there one day. Not in the winter, though, because it's too cold.
Is that in Pennsylvania?
I think it is.
Yeah, because I actually want to go to Pennsylvania, so we should all, once this COVID thing's over, we should all just take a road trip together. Because the Scranton, Pennsylvania, where the office was set, is there as well.
Nice. So
I'd love to make a little geek tour. And apparently there's this place that they mentioned in the show called Cooper's Seafood that they actually sell. They have a full office retail store.
Nice.
Like the world's greatest boss mugs and gags from the show, and all. It's really, so yeah, I would love to go to Pennsylvania. That'd be great.
See, they wouldn't be able to do that in the UK because Swindon is not a great place to go.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry for everybody in Swindon. If you're offended by that, just replace Swindon with the right end, you'll be fine. Plus, you know what? We got a hurricane to contend with this week, so let's
2 probably, right?
2, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
God,
man.
So we're not that far back in last time. So all right. So like we did last season when we spoke about the Genesis classics, we're just gonna go ahead and look at, because again, these 3 games are not games that we can do a full hour 45 minutes dedicated to, right? Because there's just not enough on them.
Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot. There is, but there isn't a whole lot to them. If you know what I mean, as far as for the sake of a narrative and technical explanations, there's only really so much you can touch on, really. So it makes sense.
Yeah, but they've got enough depth in them so that we can just put something in there, right? And these are not going to be the only.
Yeah, totally.
These are not going to be the only fighting games we talk about this season either. We're going to be at some point later on we talk about Shaq Fu. But that's not involved.
Oh.
That's not involved in today.
Oh, okay, so let's say yeah, because we're talking about fighting games today.
Fighting classics, yeah. Oh,
I love the AVG intake on that. He's like, you can just add foo to anything now, huh? Robin Williams foo, you too foo. It's whatever you want.
you too foo. I can imagine Bono fighting someone in kung fu style.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Okay, so.
He'd kill him with the reduced greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah. I'll throw his bike
Captain Planet style. There you go. He'll summon Captain Planet and we'll all be screwed.
So, the first game we're going to talk about is Killer Instinct.
Yeah.
Now, this was my go-to game when I had the SNES, right?
Okay.
First, it had this beautiful black cartridge in the UK. So like all the other characters were nice and grey, and then this black one stood out. Right?
Okay, kind of like the Legend of Zelda with that with the beautiful golden cartridge. Yeah, totally.
And I think this game deserved its own different color cartridge, because I think this is probably one of the best fighting games of all time, right?
Okay.
Because I'm a sucker for for anything that's not Mortal Kombat. Now, disclaimer to people listening expecting Mortal Kombat. As you can tell from the title, it's not in this. We're not going to be doing Mortal Kombat.
Really?
Partly because Mortal Kombat was a Genesis thing, right? And I'm not trying to discredit the Genesis or anything like that, right? Back when I was a youngster, back when I was a young man, back in the day before I went grey, Mortal Kombat was strictly Genesis and arcade, and fighting games didn't really translate that well on the Genesis because you only had 3 buttons.
Yeah, and well, I'm really conflicted about that because I like certain elements about the Genesis version, but I also like certain elements about the SNES version.
Yeah.
Like, there was no blood in the SNES version.
Exactly, because Nintendo kind of...
They were trying to keep a kind of clean-cut, kind of like family image, if you will. So... Yeah,
and that's probably why I never took to Mortal Kombat like a lot of other people did.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of preference. Like, it's a totally different... It plays differently than, like, Street Fighter or Killer Instinct or...
Yeah.
Heck, even Tekken 2, I think, or 3 was already out by then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you already had some good examples of different types of fighting games.
But the reason we're not going to go in-depth into Mortal Kombat is... Okay, we'll do a little bit. I haven't done much research, but I do know a couple of things about it. One of the things that I do remember about it was that it wasn't sprite animated. It was motion capture.
Yeah, and that was actually... something that they wanted to do because they knew that they had to stand out from some of the other competitors. And I really had to give them props for that because Street Fighter was like really cartoony and kind of embellished, whereas Mortal Kombat was like really lifelike. And
I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't take to it.
But it hasn't aged well.
No.
And that's the thing, Like, if you look at Street Fighter, it's classic. It looks good, but Mortal Kombat is just like, it's like, ooh, 90s motion capture.
Yeah. and that right there is, it was state of the art back then.
Well, it was different.
Yes.
It was, no one had ever seen anything like it before. So it's like, I didn't even almost know what to make of it because I was in the younger side. I was probably 10 or 11 when it came out. So when I go to the arcade and there'd just be like, hordes and hordes and hordes of like these bigger kids crowded around the game, covering up the screen because they're so tall.
Yeah.
Like I could barely get in there. So just the mystique of it alone had me, you know what I mean?
And I think that's another reason why I didn't take to it too.
Okay.
It was made specifically for arcades.
Yeah, it was seen that way, yeah.
Whereas all the other games were made kind of like how Bethesda makes games now strictly for console, and then they kind of make a PC version of it to, smooth things over the PC crowd and everything like that. It's the same game,
right.
But I think they made Mortal Kombat specifically for arcades without the intention of porting it over, whereas the 3 we're going to talk about today, they made them for the arcades with the intention of porting them over so there wasn't too much difference between them. I mean, that's just a theory. That I could be completely wrong. If I am wrong, let me know in the comments.
I think that's an extremely solid take on that because there was a constant struggle for companies trying to bridge the gap between consoles and arcades, depending on what was selling at that time.
Yep.
And Mortal Kombat desperately wanted to have both of that. Arcades were still very popular, so they focused on arcade first, and then the bit wars happened, and consoles started popping up left and right.
So they decided to do both.
Yeah, exactly. We can do both. We can put both of our feet in this. Why not do that? So yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Well, Midway made the arcade version of Killer Instinct. Now that I did. They're very, very, very reputable company for the most part. I mean, good games. They're like the anti-LJN. They put out good games like consistently. Not every company's gonna hit it out the park, but I've never been playing a Midway game and been like, oh, this is crap. Like I don't ever remember doing that. The only Midway game I struggled with was NBA Jam.
Yeah,
and that, as we mentioned last time, was because of the difficulty scale of it.
Yeah, that's there's some crazy AI in that game.
Oh yeah,
big time. I have the remastered version, and on the like ultra hard mode, it is nuts. Dude. It's impossible.
I played the ultra hard mode once. It was called easy. So for all you stats nerds out there, this basically was a fighting combat game developed by Rare. It was published by Midway in the arcade system, but Nintendo got a hold of it and ported it to the SNES. It was about 10 months in between the time it was released in the arcade and it came to home console systems. And that was from October 94 to August 95. And if you like ratings, it was a 76, which I disagree with, but we'll get to why I disagree with it here in a little while, all right? So this was different than a lot of other fighting games at the time, and because it had a plot.
Some of them did, but it wasn't very like pontificated or explained at all. Like you just kind of pick it up.
Now, the plot was basic, but it was a plot nonetheless. And I think that's why I gravitated towards this, because I was at the age where I was looking for more stories and stuff. Because I was like 12 when this came out.
A little more substance, perhaps.
Yeah. I mean, look.
Just to get kind of like the movie kind of experience, too.
Yes, exactly. Because this was around about the time that games started having a lot of stories. And, it was just...
It's a movie that you can control in a way.
Exactly.
That was always my appeal to video games, was because it's like, yeah, it's that, totally.
Now, it's not a deep plot. It's standard fare. Like, you've got an evil corporation organizing a fight-in tournament featuring humans, experimental creatures, robots, and aliens. Ultratech discovers that... It's called Ultratech. Ultratech discovers a technology to make bridges between interdimensions. And unfortunately, a combatant, is released from his dimensional prison in Limbo as the final boss of the game. And that's it. The winner gets, like, a purse or released from prison or back to their home planet or their boxing record restored.
So it's unique to that particular person's storyline background.
Yes,
that's pretty cool. I don't think I even knew that. Wow.
Yeah, and I mean Street Fighter had elements of that, but like it wasn't as in depth as what Killer Instinct was at the time.
I'm shaking my head vigorously because they did have that sort of thing, or I'm nodding, I should say, not shaking my head, because they did have stuff like that, but it was very truncated.
Yeah.
It would be cut into like one quick cut scene.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
So,
and, unfortunately, that was a little bit of the technology limitations back then, because you'd only do like a cutscene or a little text thing in there. And we'll get to Tekken 2 here in a little while, and that kind of explores even further on that, right? But I mean, the one thing that I loved about this game that I didn't like about a lot of, that wasn't in a lot of others, right, is that the battles were taking place on rooftops or places with high platforms, right?
Right.
And that sounds a little weird, but I think this was done because the final killing blow, you could like knock people off the building. And there was this really, really cool effect, as the dude is screaming, death, death, as the guy falls from the building straight onto the camera and through the ground.
Well, okay.
And I thought that was really, really good. It did have fatalities. That was a great thing that Mortal Kombat brought into the world was, the killing blow, the fatality.
Absolutely, the finishing move, totally.
But this one went a step further, which Mortal Kombat kind of copied. I mean, okay, we've got Mortal Kombat 10, I think, right now.
Yeah, I think it just came out recently.
I think Mortal Kombat 11 came up, but we've got 10, and they have something called friendship, right? Which is at the end of the thing, you become friends with the person you're supposed to kill, as opposed to, murdering them and
you like give them a gift or you like hug them or something.
That I think was started by Killer Instinct because they had something called humiliation, right?
Humiliation.
Yes, and what you do with the humiliation, you hit the little button combo, and your opponent would start dancing. And when I say start dancing, we're talking drunk uncle at a wedding dance.
Oh.
Like shaking his hips and, This
is the dagger of humiliation.
Yes.
It technically doesn't exist.
And I think this was the first game that did combos.
Okay.
I can't remember any other game, even Mortal Kombat having like a combo system.
The first one that I remember outside of this one was Tekken 3.
Yeah.
So you might be right in that, because that was like late 90s when Tekken 3 came. I was like 96, 97,
Yep.
something like that.
And like this combo system, every single character had a different combo system, right?
See, that's cool too. I like that.
And you could have any number. A combo was a repetitive number of hits from 3 to 80. I think 81 was the world record.
Yeah, I think I had a good friend that used to play this game all the time, and he used to tell me about all these combos and how you could do. He did like a 63 hit combo. I was like, what?
My record
awesome.
was like 49.
That's awesome, dude. I can't remember what number he put out there, but yeah, it was something ridiculous like that.
But what happens with a combo is you have to stop a combo, and that's where the whole combo breaker thing came from. Combo breaker. Yeah, that was this game.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
Because they had to, if they add in a combo system, they have to add a way to kind of stop it. Otherwise, people will be throwing things through the cabinet, right? Or throwing their controllers at the TV. Not through the TV, at the TV, because you couldn't get it through that thick-ass glass.
It's like a check, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's all good. It's just every good game has to have, they can't have something that's too overpowered or underpowered, etc.
You gotta have it, what's the word, balanced.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one thing that it did have that I didn't like, okay, like most fighting games, every character had 2 health bars, right?
Right.
And the object of the fight was clear a health bar. Simple standard stuff. But unlike the other games, at the end of round 1, whatever health you had in your health bar is what you carried through to round 2. So, like, you didn't have a brand new full health bar at the beginning of round 2. If you squeaked through round 1 with like 1 hit left, that's what you started round 2 with.
That is brutal.
Yeah.
That is absolutely brutal.
Now, the good thing about that is that you couldn't do a humiliation unless you had both health bars at least partially intact before the end of the thing. So that kind of lifted the challenge up to it.
So there was like a minimum that you had. Okay, like you had to have so much energy to be able to do that. That's cool. Yeah, I played this game. I'm not super familiar with it, but you're hitting it on the head with all the stuff that it's known for. Definitely known for the comboing. Definitely.
One of the things right here is, it had 10 unique characters.
Okay.
Right? And which was a lot for a game back then.
Totally.
Like Tekken blew it apart with like the 80 characters I think they had eventually at one point. But like there was 10, which was more than Street Fighter, which was the standard at the time. And I think Mortal Kombat only had like 8 as well.
Yeah.
The
original lineup was, I think it was only 6 or 8. It was something. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had Orchid, who's kind of the what's the best way to describe this without coming across as an ass? Orchid was the skirt of the game.
The eye candy.
She was there basically to get all the teenagers involved.
We used to call that fan service. Like when we were playing Tekken and one of the hot Asian girls would do a really high kick, and you'd see part of her leg, the upper part of her thigh and part of her buttocks would be like fan service. Yep.
That's I mean, considering her humiliation was to flash somebody.
I guess so. I mean, when I was 16, there was nothing better. So
nothing better. Well, hey, I'm 36. There's still nothing better. But
it's the little things, man. You gotta take what you can get.
It's the little things. Yeah. But her ending is basically she's a secret agent investigating the disappearances surrounding the previous year, because this is apparently the second tournament that they had. There's Chief Thunder, who is a Native American chieftain who's looking for information regarding his brother's disappearance.
That sounds like a movie I'd watch.
I'd watch it too, but unfortunately, it's a very, very outdated stereotype.
Right.
He's very, very stereotypical Native American, mannerisms and.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So all the peace pipe, the TP, it's all there. Okay, yeah.
The tomahawks, it's designed for you. It's designed for you to look at and think Native American.
But it was done in a different time and a different
time period.
Yeah, a different worldview. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, it's not correct now, but we didn't know it wasn't correct back then. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, times they are changing for sure.
Times they are changing. Next character was my character. He's my go-to character because he could do the combos the best.
Okay, I remember this guy.
Cinder.
Yeah.
He's a prisoner of flame, and his story is if he wins, they find a cure.
They cool him down. They just dump a water in his head. He's like, thank you.
Well, this is the thing. He only appears in this game. And the remake that they did a couple of years ago for the Xbox and PlayStation 4.
He probably burned away.
Because his rival was Glacius, who was an alien made out of ice.
Okay, there you go. There's that balance. There's that yin and yang again. Every good game's got it. I'm telling you.
And his story was he's free to go to his home planet if he wins. So basically, he's Poochie. You know,
okay.
It's like he died on his way to his home planet. We had Fulgo, which was the Ryu of the game because every game had a Ryu. He was a prototype cyborg entering the tournament for last minute testing before they make a bunch of soldiers out of him. Which, if you were going to fight a cyborg, you're going to get hurt because you punch something metal, they're not going to feel it.
Yeah, unless you have like plasma fists or something, or something that we haven't thought of yet. But yeah, that sounds like it's going to be disastrous.
That's LJN's new game idea.
Quick, copyright it. Throw a movie on it.
There you go. You have Jago or Yago. I can never pronounce it. He's a Tibetan monk who was abandoned as a baby and is the twin brother of Orchid.
I bet it's Chaga.
Yeah. Apparently, he's like some tiger spirit monk thing. I don't know. It's
okay. That sounds cool.
But his fighting style is what they base Fulgo on. So, like all games, not only did they have a Ryu, they had a Ken.
Of course, yeah. You have to have the same dude, but with blonde hair and a different gi. I mean, yeah, totally.
The rest, there's TJ Combo, who's a 5-time boxing champion with cybernetic implants in his arms, based on Mike Tyson.
Oh, okay.
Because all boxing characters in the 90s were based off Mike Tyson.
Well, yeah, he was the quintessential boxer at that time, for sure.
Then you had Ripto the dinosaur, Saberwolf the werewolf, Spinal the skeleton, and Idol the demon. I mean, on the face of it, these look like a ragtag crew of people of fighters that sound cheap, cheesy, and cartoony.
Right.
And they are. But at the same time, they all had their strengths, they all had their weaknesses, Yeah.
And
they were all good fighters. Except Idol, who sucked.
Well, I mean, his name, come on.
Right? But I think that was the way with all fighting games. If you unlocked the boss to fight as yourself, they weren't as good. You couldn't control them the way the AI can control them.
Well, yeah, because that's computer assisted, man. It's just... Yeah. I mean, literally, it's all logarithms. How much do you want this to suck? Okay, turn up all the way, and not very much. Turn down a whole lot.
I mean, I think personally, if you're in a fighting game and your character can't jump, he's a bad character.
Yeah. Well, and there's characters that have, like in Tekken, there's a character whose strengths are on the floor.
Yeah. Like
he's a jujitsu, I believe it is, the discipline where they do a lot of throws and. Yeah, like leg locks and stuff like that. So, I mean, I guess it just that sort of thing in a good game will force you to explore options like that.
Fighting styles.
So who knows? There could be a whole different array of techniques or approaches that weren't even being utilized. Who knows?
There's definitely a lot of stuff in these games that most people didn't know how to use, even now.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Because even though they were small games, once everybody got their default fighting style, even if they did with other characters, they didn't really experiment too much because they always went back to what they knew worked.
Yeah, I mean, your bread and butter, totally. Yeah. Totally.
So, like most games, it has a very, very easy difficulty system from level 1 to level 7, and any of these storyline elements that we've mentioned so far, they don't become available before level 2. Now, I wrote down level 3, it's actually level 2.
Okay.
So, anything that we've mentioned right here, you've got to play difficulty at level 2, which, to be fair, is not that difficult.
Right.
If level 4 is average, level 2 is kind of easy. Level 1 is...
Yeah. I was about to say with that kind of difficulty rating, I mean that's a gradient. That's a pretty big gradient.
Yeah.
So I mean you're talking, it's a very nuanced, because most games it's like easy, normal, hard.
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, you see games like Skyrim where they've got adept,
legendary
that goes 5 or 6, and then they just start adding new categories at the end. So that's kind of cool. I think they kind of pioneered that in a way.
Well, when Skyrim is re-released for the PS5 and the Xbox One X new system that's coming out,
yeah,
they're probably going to add legendary and super legendary,
ultimate legendary,
ultimate legendary,
double ultimate legendary,
where everybody does 5 times more damage and you do 10 times less damage.
Yeah, it's like 100 to 1.
Yeah. I'm sure I'd be able to find a way around it once I get to level 70 after smithing all those daggers and doing all those enchantments.
Yeah, I would just do business all the way up to like level 40, basically.
Ironically, I know we're slightly going into modern gaming right now, but ironically, my latest Skyrim character, I'm at level 47.
Nice.
And I'm just starting to get to break out into the world.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think the thing about this game, though, that made it unique amongst others, right, was the fact that it had a soundtrack. And I know I mentioned Gal's theme and Ken's theme and blah, 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 but I'm talking about this had a legitimate soundtrack that was released on CD that if you bought like a certain edition of Killer Instinct, it came with it. And like, not a cassette, a CD, which was high tech in '94.
Yeah, you don't see that. It's usually with movies, you'd only see that sort of thing. But to get one in a game, yeah, that's pretty rare.
And unlike a lot of the games that came before it, they actually designed the level first, then recorded the music.
Okay.
Because a lot of these they just recorded a soundtrack. I grabbed generic stock tracks.
Yeah.
They actually, they made the themes to reflect the artwork, which was good. I think that added a lot of gravitas to it. But I mean, we've spoken about what we've done with this. I think this is better than what the critics gave it.
Okay.
And it's not. Whenever people talk about fighting games, they talk about Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, Tekken, right? Those are the holy trinity. I personally think that this should be there.
Oh, right alongside them.
Definitely. It's not as acclaimed as everything else, but it brought a lot of features that every other game either copied or borrowed, And I mean, every sequel that came after this was better than the one before it.
Okay.
And it helped you because of the fact that it had so many different so many different types of character. You had alien, you flame man, you Native American stereotype, your Asian fighter stereotype, right? That kind of brought you into a world that you didn't have to spend your disbelief about because, like take Street Fighter, for example, right? And we'll talk about Street Fighter before we talk about the next game. We'll jump a little bit ahead.
Okay.
Street Fighter right here, right? One of the main characters of Street Fighter, you've got karate experts, marine, sumo, a green monster, a boxer.
One of them's and Chun-Li's like a special forces officer or something like that.
So everyone's special force, specialist fighting skill, green monster. And that kind of took me out of it a little bit, Yeah,
Blanca. Yeah.
Whereas Killer Instinct had enough of variety amongst his characters where you could believe a skeleton was fighting a boxer. But if you have 8 humans and 1 monster, it kind of pulls you out just a little bit.
Even if the one guy is punching and extending his arms and shooting fire out of his mouth, still the human element of it. Yeah. Absolutely.
But Street Fighter was another game that was arcade first, console second. And again, this they kind of like it took a year to port it over. It was made by Capcom. There was a rumor going around that if you put in the Konami code, because it was also done by Konami as well, if you put in the Konami code, you could get unlock all the characters, which was a lie. Somebody delved into the code and found out it was a lie. But they kind of saved that for Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Okay.
Where you could play all the characters, including the bosses, which is why I said that about the bosses are not made for human AI. They're for AI, you know?
Okay, yeah.
But basically put, this is 8 fighters compete in the World Warrior Tournament, with the last one standing has to beat the leaders of the underground organization to win it. Again, you know, it's a very, very basic plot. It kind of holds it all together. But I think this was designed more for 2 players.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the best fighting games have to stand, like, they have to have a good 2-player system. Because I mean, there's what's like Dangerous Streets. Like, there's some other ones that were really bad, like that you would see the computer do their thing, and you'd be like, okay, cool, and then you try to pull off the moves and you couldn't, because they're like impossible to do. So having an authentic experience with both players makes the best fighting game for sure.
Yeah, definitely, and I think, you know, this game right here is that people have said that this game is the arcade killer, right? This was the one that kind of, you know, struck even though the arcades took a long while to finally collapse, this was the one that struck the fatal blow, and they never recovered from this, right?
Yeah, because it's a really smooth console game. It's very, very good.
And not only is it very, very good, I've got these backwards. Not only is it very, very good, it's very, very. The replay value is phenomenal.
Yeah, there's a lot
for a fighting game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very in-depth game. I put a lot of hours into this one, learning combos and trying to beat other people and stuff like that. So
this is one of the few games that I actually video recorded back in the day.
Okay, right on.
There is a videotape at my mother's house somewhere of me playing, me as a 9-year-old playing Tekken, playing Street Fighter 2, and I was playing like on level 7. I got to Vega and I couldn't do it anymore. Because
Vegas.
Vegas tough. But you know, unlike Killer Instinct, you had your life meters that refresh after every battle, which I thought was really, really great. And every bout on this had a time limit. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no way you can do these battles for 99 seconds. Like a single fight, there's absolutely no way it would take 99 seconds to end it.
Yeah, we would always, when me and my friends play Tekken, we'd always turn it to infinite.
There you go.
Always, just because, I mean, that should not be a factor.
No, but even at the same time, everyone's punches and kicks were so powerful that even blocking someone, if you did nothing but light punches, it would take maybe 45 seconds at most.
Yeah, well, they added guard damage later on, too. They have a way you could toggle it off and on.
Yeah.
And we used to play with it on for the added challenge.
Yeah.
And I can tell how many matches I should have won that I would have won if guard damage had not have been on. So,
yeah,
man.
That's the thing about this one, too. It was, you know, I always fell for pressing the wrong button at the wrong time. Because they had, right, in the SNES version, you had the L and R button up top, and then you had the 4 buttons on the pad. And basically you had 3 kicks and 3 punches. And you had 3 different levels of punches and kicks. You had soft punch, medium punch, and hard punch. And then soft kick, medium kick, hard kick. Right? And you won't remember how many times somebody would mess with your control setup, and you thinking you throw in a nice hard punch, and it's like, you know, little jab.
Little dinky, yeah. Because I used to switch them around. I used to put the powerful punch at the front, and then... Because the top buttons are kind of... To me, I couldn't... Yeah, I couldn't quite land them with the same finesse as I could the thumb buttons.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's same here. And I always made sure that I set... now, did you do this? Because I made sure that all my fighting games had the same button setup.
No, because I play Tekken with my fingers, actually.
Okay.
So I have it set up that the top buttons don't do anything.
Okay.
Like, top button is the tag, but I like the buttons... free, but on Mortal Kombat, no. I mean, for me, it's to answer your question, no. It's for me, it's pretty much different every game.
Okay. I kept all of my things exactly the same for each SNES fighting game.
Okay, well that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, I can't word today, man.
No worries. I'm all over the place too. I'm talking about different consoles and stuff. So
there you go. We're all good, man. This did something that a lot of fighting games didn't do at that point, but the original Street Fighter did. It was like all the special moves were physics defying. Every special move was physics defying. Like
conjuring fire, or like turning upside down and rotating like a helicopter.
Yep. Yeah. sumo wrestler doing a running dive across the room and landing on his feet.
Exactly.
M. Bison's electricity.
Exactly. Yeah. Blanca being perpetually electrified. Yeah.
Yeah, the monster, man, the monster. He's
terrifying.
As they come. I think the only one that had human moves was Zangief, the Russian wrestler.
Yeah, and even he had that thing where he would spin, like
spinning pile driver.
Yeah, he would spin, but he would like go on blue flames too, or like plasma or something. That was tripped me out when he threw that up.
The one thing I love about this game is the mini games in between all the battles. Like you do 2 battles and then you have to do a mini game, and then 2 battles, then do a mini game.
Oh, like
so
destroy the car.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
They should have just made a whole game of mini games.
Yeah, just destroy that should be just a an
option.
Yeah, I was going to say an unlockable like mode or whatever, because they had Tekken Bowl in Tekken Tag. And I couldn't tell how many hours I've spent playing Tekken Bowl.
and in Tekken 3, they had the Streets of Rage mode.
Yes, they did. And they brought that back for Tekken 5?
I think so.
It's been kind of like a mainstay in a way. I didn't really like it as much as the regular game, personally.
No. But it was good that they offered a variety of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, to me, there's just something special about the game. All of them, you know.
Now, for everybody wondering the difference between Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 2 Turbo, there's literally 2 differences.
The speed.
You could ramp the speed up like really fast or really slow, and you could play as any character any of the 8 from the original game plus the 4 bosses, and everybody had like a palette swap, so you could like have Blue Ken versus Red Ken, you know, and playing as Bison and playing as Vega was terrifyingly difficult.
Yeah, they've got a lot of specialized moves and stuff. It's one of those things where you see the computer do it and you're like, whoa, and then you go look at it and you're like, what? Like to pull it off, you know?
Right. Now, this is the thing, right? This is one of the things that I didn't know about, right? The 3 of the 4 bosses, right? One of the bosses was established in the original Street Fighter game. That was Sagat, right?
Yeah.
He was the original boss of Street Fighter 1, so Street Fighter 2, he's now the underboss, right?
Right.
The three bosses they brought in were Bison, Vega, and Balrog, right?
Right.
Now, I didn't know this. Balrog is the American boxer who looks like Mike Tyson.
Yeah, he's very, very much based off Tyson. No denying that.
He was supposed to be... in Japan, he is M. Bison.
Oh, Balrog is?
Yeah. He was M. Bison. M. Bison. M. Tyson. Sounds the same. Nintendo thought they were going to get sued in America, so they changed it around, and the last boss became Bison. He was originally called Vega. And Vega was originally called Balrog.
God, that is Identity Crisis Central right there. That's crazy.
Like, when I read that, I was like, the only one that makes sense is Balrog being M. Bison because it's a play off M. Tyson.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Okay.
Again, another 90s boxer based on Mike Tyson.
He was the quintessential 90s boxer for sure, man, once again.
Yep. That and the fact that he was in Vegas as well.
Yeah.
The special stage was Vegas.
I always liked his look, like the mask and the I hated the glove thing though. That used to piss me off.
Vega, man. Vega was the only one I had trouble with at any level.
He's so slippery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he could climb the fence like Spider Monkey.
You know what I would do? I would just get Guile and just razor kick him every time he did that.
Yeah. Every single time.
Yep.
Every single time, because it was easy. But that was the thing, Street Fighter 2 Turbo. You could do Vega's climb up the wall and dive on people.
Yeah.
But because there was no wall, he would like Spider-Man off the screen and then look like something in a Spider-Man movie, come sliding down and hit you with a claw.
Yeah. He was too fast and too powerful, I think. He might have been a little overpowered. Now,
one of the things, right, and my son is getting very, very into a lot of video games, you know, and he gets very, very into the weeds, right? He likes to look up, you know, stats and beta information and, you know, all the nerdy stuff, right? He's 13,
sure,
which is weird. You know, he should be doing other stuff at 13, but so he's looking at this stuff, right? And I asked him, and he couldn't confirm this one, right? Ryu and Ken are basically the two. You know, Ryu was the main star, and they made Ken because if your friend went Ryu, you could still play as Ryu, but it's just called Ken, right? I had a theory
Okay.
that Ryu and Ken are more than just a palette swap. Okay, we talked about Streets of Rage last season, and we talked about how it had like a three-ring circus, right? You had speed, strength, and
agility, or
right,
whatever.
Yeah, and it was either you had two A's and a B, right? I think Ken is exactly the same, right? Ryu and Ken both have jump, strength, and speed stats.
Right.
I think Ryu is quicker, but Ken is more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Ryu's much quicker.
Yeah.
Ken's more powerful, and
just seems sluggish.
Ryu jumps higher, but he has less stamina. Ken jumps lower, but he has more stamina. It's something like that. There's a perfect yin and yang there.
Yeah, it has to be, man. It has to be, because that's the only way why I always seem like I do better with Ken than Ryu, because it takes less or it seems like it takes less hits. And
they all have the same moves list, so I mean, you could empirically test that if you wanted to.
I might have to do that.
It'd be possible. I mean, I'll help you out with that. No problem. Anytime.
I'll hook up the SNES here in a little while. Try and do it over Zoom. Then you've got like Honda in Japan, sumo wrestler. You got Guile, who's been memed, and as I spoke with Sarah last week, if you memed, you've made it.
Yeah, he's the Van Damme. He was modeled. I've confirmed that 100%. He was modeled after Van Damme, who was the quintessential kind of movie star karate guy at that time too.
And ironically, Van Damme played Guile in the movie.
Yeah, they had circle against square once again, right?
Yep, right. And then you had Soviet Union Zangief. I've never heard of a yoga warrior before. I think they just.
The little poetic license.
Yeah, it had to have been. Yeah. And then you had the four bosses, and then Chun-Li, the only female character in the game, who was what did you say the phrase was?
Fan service.
Fan service, yes. Yeah. That's all she was there for. Like Killer Instinct, you couldn't really get storyline elements until you beat the game on a certain level. I love this game. I think it's fantastic. It made over $2 billion in the arcades.
Wow.
8 billion quarters got shoveled into machines for this game.
It's well worthy of it, definitely.
And like I said, because of how popular this was at the arcades, and then the popularity of the home system, this was the killing blow for the arcade. This was the tipping point.
Yeah.
People say that this game is what killed it, right? Now, we mentioned a minute ago, we can't talk about Street Fighter without not talking about the Street Fighter movie.
Right.
Which I want to cover in depth one day. I have to, because I was one of like the 10 people in the world who thought it was a good movie. Right? There were a lot of people who didn't think it was a good movie. I thought it was a fantastic movie.
Okay.
Right? It starred Raul Julia, Kylie Minogue, and Van Damme. The storyline was weak. The action was weaker, but it was one of those, it was so bad it's good. Right?
Yeah, it was good to see them try to do something.
And it was Raul Julia's last film before he passed of cancer. I can't. It was a sad time. No, I don't think anybody knew outside in the production that he had cancer, except for like the director and a couple of the actors.
He did a good Bison, real good.
Oh yeah, his performance was so good that when the Sonic the Hedgehog trailers came out.
Yeah.
Because the trailers for that movie looked awful. Everybody was saying Jim Carrey is going to have a Raul Julia performance and make this movie fantastic. And he did. Apparently the Sonic movie, Jim Carrey made the Sonic movie, Raul Julia made Street Fighter the movie.
Okay, right on. I got to see that. I've heard weird, like mixed reviews about it, so I'll have to see it for myself and figure it out.
My 13-year-old Sonic fan thinks it's a great movie, so...
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he's the target audience. I think the last game that we're going to talk about today, we've mentioned it a couple of times, Tekken 2.
Yeah.
Now, to answer somebody's question who sent me a message a couple of months ago, why do I always do blank game 2? Why don't you do blank game 1? Sometimes blank game 1 wasn't made in the 90s, so I can't do it.
Sure.
But blank game 2 ironed the kinks out. So
Yeah.
so the first game was never really as good as the second game.
Tekken 1 wasn't that good. Yeah, I've played Tekken 1. They were onto something, and it was playable for the time, and it was good for the time. But yeah, they made some serious progression in this game.
And as soon as they made the progression, bang, all run better game.
Yeah, they basically set the bar. Like Street Fighter has borrowed elements, and other fighting franchises have all borrowed like artistic and like coding moves, like all kinds of been a lot of copycatters.
I mean, this was on a 2.5D plane, right?
Right.
Which was unusual for the time. Now it's 360 whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But this with different camera angles, you could dodge people, and then it would tweak the camera so that you back looking at each other and come closer. And I think that really took advantage of the PlayStation's better hardware at the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, CDs back in the day, right? They could hold 790 megabytes of information, I think it was.
Yeah,
right?
something like
was
that.
The final score. Whereas a 16-bit cartridge could only hold like 4 megabytes. So they could stuff a lot more information into a CD, which was Sony's strength. At the
Compressed video and audio and more graphics, more everything. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Killer Instinct, the main hook was the combo system.
Yeah.
Street Fighter, the main hook was the special moves. This took both and made them tools rather than the hooks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they added a defensive, how do you say it? Like
mechanic.
Yeah, basically, and they've continued to develop that, like adding the parry, like there's sidestep throws. There's like all these really different ways that you can utilize
counter
that
system.
Yeah, basically another check and balance, which I said before, every good fighting game's got a bunch of them, and the Tekken is full of counterbalances all over the place.
Oh yeah. If the other two games are straight up fight to the death, this is more like boxing, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
It's more of a defensive play, which leads to more offense. I know that sounds oxymoronic, but people who box will understand what I'm saying.
Your defense and your offense have to commingle, because you're basically putting up an offensive knowing what the defensive would be. So you're basically just working. You're trying not to work against yourself the entire time. Yeah. So, and they're trying to do the same thing. So it kind of makes it more of it's less of a paintball game, and it's more of like a chess match. Even that. Yeah. Yes. But you get the idea. Yeah. It's much more intricate than most fighting games.
This had two unique modes for its time in these kind of games, right? They had a team battle mode.
Yeah.
Right. That's where you picked a roster of up to 8 people, and then the computer would pick 8 people, and your goal was to kill their 8 before you killed your 8.
Yeah, I always had a lot of fun with that.
And then they had time attack mode. Now, this one I never completed on any difficulty, even the easiest difficulty.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard.
Time attack mode, for people who don't know, is that you have your standard 2 health bars, and that's all you get. And you've got to go through all 10 rounds on those 2 health bars.
I think I can't remember if it's in this one, but in the later one, they started padding your health a little bit. Like they just give you a teeny back. Yeah, just a little bit, just in case you're on the last hit, you could take one more.
Yeah.
I don't think it was this one. I think it was Tag when they started it.
Now, like Street Fighter, the health regenerated between rounds, so that's
that's
really good. But the good thing or the bad thing, depending on which way you look at it, right? We mentioned Street Fighter had 99-second countdown, and you were never going to use all 99 seconds.
Right.
But even though Tekken was a more defensive game, even though you had to strategize what you were supposed to do very, very quickly, these were very, very fast-paced fights.
Yeah, big time.
You couldn't really do anything because it was so fast. You couldn't you just couldn't do it. You couldn't. You couldn't spam a whole bunch of special moves because they'd block you all, and then they'd come back with a counter, and then all of a sudden they're hitting you hard, and bang, it's over.
Yeah, they know that every character, like a good Tekken player, they understand their character, but they also understand other characters. So when they start patterns or combinations, like when I would play tournaments, I'd always play with Paul Phoenix. But I also knew Jin really well because Jin's a fan favorite. Like everyone uses Jin. Everyone knows him. So I learned all of Jin's combos, all of his counters, all of his defensive stances, every bit of them. So when he starts that 15-hit combo, I can go high, 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 low, medium, low, high, high, block, and then block everyone. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, exactly.
My go-to character was Yoshimitsu.
Oh, I love Yoshi. He's so fun.
Like, it's only because he has his sword. No, it's not. The sword actually doesn't come into play at all. It's the fact that he was very, very fast.
Creative, too.
And he had very, very, like, athletic, high... Because I'm a jumper, right? When I play these games, I'm a jumper.
Yeah.
I don't stand there and wait to be hit, or I jump. If somebody comes to me, I jump over them and get them from behind, right?
Right.
I'm a coward. Leave me alone. But I thought he like his he could attack, like, you could be as far apart as each other as possible, and with one move he could be right up in your face without teleportation.
Yeah, there's a couple moves where he would he had some really unique moves. My favorite one is it's kind of a show off move, like a, what do you call it? Like when they're showboat. It's a showboat.
Yeah.
There's one where
he sits meditating.
That one, but there's another one that my friend that was really good with him used to do. Like, say he would just like totally wipe the floor with you. Like he took 2 hits and you got 1 hit left. It's this move where he stabs himself and takes damage.
Oh yeah.
And then it hits you. And it finishes you. Yeah. So he would finish us off with that move. Like, you mother... such a show off.
Yeah, I would always miscue my health in that one, and I would end up dying first.
Yeah.
And then, like, I think I've done this cool move. It's like, draw. What do you mean draw?
Yeah, and that's sometimes how it would end too when that move. But my buddy, he knew exactly when to do it, and it was so irritating. So irritating. Yeah, Yoshimitsu was very creative. I like that about him.
Now, this game has the most characters so far, right? 24 playable characters.
Yeah, big roster.
Some are just simple palette swaps. Some are more or less identical characters.
Yeah, like the Jacks, they're all the same.
Yep.
And you've got some characters are in essence the same, but have different sprites and different power ratings. For example, Heihachi and Jin.
Yep.
Also Kazuya, they have the same fighting style, same moves. However, there's a few subtle differences like power moves and whatnot. But yeah, Nina, she was only in this game. I don't think she made it. Yeah, she made tag. What am I saying?
Nina did, Anna didn't.
Yeah, Nina, but Nina and Michelle were real similar. And you had that happen later on too. Yeah, but they had a pretty unique roster.
They did, right? And the good thing about it was, right, the first 10 characters, you unlocked someone, pretty much every time, right?
Yeah.
So, Jin Kazama unlocked her sensei. You had Yoshimitsu with Kunimitsu, which was a forested version of it. You had Jack and Jack, you had King and Armor King, blah, 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 blah. There was a character, right, called Roger or Alex, right?
Yeah.
And to unlock... I didn't even write notes on how to unlock these, because it's done such convolutedly. Like, you have to get... they had something called Great in this, right?
Right.
Which is, you had, Flawless Victory, I think it was called, Perfect Victory, which is basically... Flawless Victory, you won with on your first health bar.
Right.
Perfect means you didn't get hit at all, but then they had something called Great, which is literally you had 1 hit left, and you were dead.
Yeah, it's like you edge out. Yeah. You edge victory, like it was a photo finish, basically.
You had to complete fight number 3 with any character as Great to unlock Alex or Roger.
Yeah.
Now, that's convoluted.
It kind of is, but I mean, it's doable. I mean, you play enough, it's gonna happen eventually.
And then you had Kazuya. You had to beat with any underboss, with any what they call the underboss. So like the person they unlocked, you had to beat. So say for example, you did the game as King. You unlock Armor King. To get Kazuya, you had to beat the game as Armor King.
Armor King. Okay, so whoever you unlock, you have to beat with an unlocked character.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you had to beat the game as Kazuya to unlock Angel or Devil.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense because that's connected to Kazuya.
I'd say those unlocks were convoluted, but I mean, that I think was the benefit of the PlayStation. Because you could do convoluted stuff and extra hidden stuff and everything like that, and people would go ahead and find it. You know, they had the time to bury the secrets and the time for us to go find it because it was a far bigger game.
And it's part of the element of replay value, as you were saying earlier. Good fighting games have extensive replay value, and this is probably the best of them all in that regard, in my opinion.
Definitely. I mean,
this series as a whole, not just this one game, but the Tekken franchise. Yeah,
I think this was also an underrated hit, if that makes sense. Tekken 1 was okay.
Yeah.
And you did a sequel just to kind of, okay, this was okay. Let's iron some of these kinks out. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, well, we've tried.
Right.
And I think this one knocked it out of the park so much that the subsequent games, the Tekken Tags, the Tekken 3s, the Tekken whatever we're at now, they owe it to this game for ironing out so much of what they did and bringing in all these modes together.
Yeah, and making it work in a very kind of awkward time as far as gaming went, because you're kind of right in between the emergence of 3D, because by then we had N64 was doing 3D, but only really Nintendo kind of had mastered the 3D, and with them adding that sidestep and the kind of the 2.5 but doing it on a CD based console,
it bridged it.
Yeah, exactly, because they for the problem was Sega CD came out and Amiga CD32, and we were like, ooh, dude, CDs are not going to be good. This is going to suck. And then PlayStation came out, and we're like, oh, okay, well, all right. And this is one of the games that restored my faith in the CD console.
I think that was because Sony spent a lot of time with Nintendo developing it. I mean, because this thing, most people don't realize is that the PlayStation was originally supposed to be an add-on for the SNES.
And they pulled out or something like that? Like
Nintendo pulled out because they wanted to devote time to the 64, and Sony had this proprietary software that all the kinks had already been worked out on.
And they had all the rights to it at that point. Yeah, might as well go into business for yourself.
Yeah, just, it's ironic that Sony won the console war that they weren't a part of.
Yeah, I would say that they kind of did, because at the end of the day, they've got a bunch of the old Sega and Atari rights and lots of other things like that. They're still extremely powerful in their own regard, definitely.
Now I'm one of those guys where a console is a console. It doesn't matter, what. It doesn't matter what I hold in my hand as long as the game's good.
If the game's good, and playable, who cares? Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I didn't like fighting games on the Genesis, because I just didn't think they worked, because of...
Yeah, like in Mortal Kombat, the block was start.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah. But, this right here, I mean, look, Street Fighter was great. Mortal Kombat was great. Killer Instinct was great. But how many other fighting games came out... that, I mean, we laughed about Shaq Fu earlier, right? Which we are going to talk about in a couple of weeks. But the genre was like stale.
Yeah, it was trite. It was overdone big time.
And the first Tekken didn't set the world on fire.
It was a good effort. It was a good, okay, here's what we want to do, but it didn't really get it figured out until here.
Yeah, and it added to the staleness, right? The first one
just threw it right on top of the pile. Yeah.
This made it fresh. This refreshed the whole genre.
I agree with that.
And plus, Nintendo couldn't compete with it, so they decided to go in a different direction, and that started the Smash Brothers series.
Yeah, it's once again...
Which is still going on today.
Yeah, once again clinging to that family-friendly kind of vibe. Even though it's a fighting game, it's kind of a comical sort of... fun Nintendo way, instead of I'm gonna get decapitate Link, right.
If you're playing with a 13-year-old, it's not fun.
Yeah, because they Hey, anytime I play Tekken online, I don't have a good time, because it's always someone who's much younger than me, and they're doing juggle combos and you breaking out swords and guns, and I'm just like, dude, really? So
and I'm sitting there getting my ass whooped by my kid and realizing just how obnoxious I was when I was 13 to 15 playing all these games. Thought I was brilliant, and then I realized,
full circle.
Oh, I'm not brilliant.
Yep, that's just.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not brilliant. I'm just that many years old now.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
But the story kept the gameplay fresh because every single character had a different story. Even the unlockables had a different story.
Yeah.
And even though the story was a mute cutscene, you kind of got the gist of what was going on. You found out who had alliances together and who were friends together.
It had substance to it, even though, and it wasn't nearly as truncated as some of the other stuff that we saw. Once again, console limitations probably had something to do with that, but nonetheless, they had the ability to do more with CD, and I think that they utilized that as much as they could.
Definitely.
So it's definitely there.
I say 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. 9.5. Just such a good game. It's just it still holds up. The characters are still part of the franchise.
Yep.
You know, it's still heralded, talked about. Absolutely, man. 9.5. I'd give it a 10 if I could. You know.
There you go. Well, that's it, guys. That's it. 3 of the greatest fighting games released in the 90s, right? Again, no disrespect to Mortal Kombat fans out there. That's my personal preference. I'm not really familiar with Mortal Kombat because I didn't play it as much, and as the years went on, I already nailed myself to the Tekken and Street Fighter series. Okay,
it wasn't that good on the SNES anyways, and if that's what you were playing, you didn't miss anything. Yeah, I'm telling you, it was sweat and just, it was blocky. It didn't flow as well as the Genesis one at all. So
now I've played recent Mortal Kombat and it's good, but again, the ones that we're talking about I haven't played, so I can't really say anything into it. So that's it, guys. If you've had any other fighting games that you'd like to talk about, drop it in our social media pages. Greg, man, it's fantastic to have you come on board. You're more than welcome on an invitation. All that, all that's good. And over the next couple of weeks, you have several things going on before you're back with us to do. If my memory serves me correct, you were going to be here talking about something else, but in the meantime,
we've got several more podcast get-togethers planned, so that's definitely going to happen.
There you go.
Musically, everything's kind of been weird and up in the air, canceled, postponed, not happening. But luckily, the downtown Shreveport area, Fairfield Studios, and a few other people who I'm forgetting are putting together a drive-in concert experience, 2 nights, 6 different local, regional awarding acts. It's going to be car service. You're going to get a view of the like basically they're going to put you'll be able to see and hear the band from your car with your own personal setup. Nice. It's actually going to be it's going to be really cool. It's like going to a drive-in movie where they would hang the speaker on your car so you could hear the movie. But I think they're also providing video as well, so you'll be able to see and hear from your vehicle.
And that's on?
It's going to be really fun. Yeah, that's September 18th and 19th. If you want more info on it, go check out theholodex.com or find us on Facebook. We've got a link to the information and RSVP for that. They're charging by the carload, so load up all your friends who are people that you have been sheltering in place with, quarantining with, etc., and get out. And there's actually going to be part of the lawn open too. There's going to be some distance areas where you can bring out a lawn chair. It's family friendly. Bring everybody. There's going to be food and drinks, merch, everything. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you guys come out.
And if you can't make it physically in person, this is going to be streamed live as well, you said?
Yes, it's going to be simulcasted on several different pages. I'm not precisely sure where from, but we will post a link to that stream whenever it happens. So no worries there. If you're following the Holodex on Facebook, you'll see it.
There you go. And like I said, Greg will be back very, very shortly in a couple of weeks. We're going to be talking about possibly the second greatest cartoon of the 90s. Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, that's a...
We're going to have our masts nailed to that one.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, can't wait.
Said nail. All right, so Greg, man, awesome. Thank you for coming on, man. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And we'll be back here in a few more minutes because I've got a couple of things that I need to plug for us. And we take it easy. I'm always horrible at these endings. So see you soon, bro. My sincerest thank you to Greg Gregory for coming on this week and giving us his expertise in some 90s video games. See, fighting games are awesome. They're just a little too small to do on the regular. So, but thank you for coming on. He and the Holodecks are going to be performing at the New Normal Drive-In Live-In concert on the 19th of September. You want to check that out on Facebook? Go to facebook.com/holodecks. They will give you all the information that you need on there, as Greg mentioned earlier. As with what we've got going on, well, we're still going forward, and we're getting prepared for Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. That's going to be our 90s Gamer season coming up. That's going to be dropping on Tuesday, October 6th. That's a little over 2 weeks away, or 3 weeks away right now. And of course, that's not the only video game stuff that we've got going on. We are going to go ahead on November 28th, 2020. We're going to be doing a live stream of FIFA The Road to World Cup 98 to see if I can take little old Wales all the way to the World Cup final. And of course, that live stream is going to be for the Movember Foundation. Any donations will be fantastic. I'll give more information as time goes on. And yeah, so guys, that's really all I've got to say this week. Yeah. So it's very, very quiet on the Western Front up here, but yeah. So there's, that's really, really good. Next week we're gonna have Dexter Duran and Benjamin Tynan on, as we're gonna be talking about the 1994 smash hit, The Lion King, and I'm looking forward to this. First time I've recorded with two guests, so that'll be interesting to go. It'll be a dynamic. But guys, if you're on social media, check out Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. If we are not on your social media platform of choice, go ahead and check us out on all the good ones, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And of course, we are on YouTube, bit.ly/bmnetwork-YouTube. That's where you can find sample episodes, all of our video game series. If you just have YouTube on the background, that's where all of our podcasts are uploaded as well. And I guess that's it. Take it easy, stay safe. Say your prayers, eat your vitamins. I don't know what I'm saying. I always have a hard time ending these things. But we'll see you next time. Have a good week. Beavis and Butthead.